Hey there, everyone. Welcome to the live stream. So glad to have you. I'm excited to paint with you again this evening. I think we're at episode 58 of the live stream. So we are trucking on. I hope you had a good week and that you are well and warm. We have been so lucky here in the Black Hills to have some warm weather move through after some frigid temperatures last week. It has been in the upper 40s, almost 50 the last couple of days. So we've been enjoying that. Today I actually was just out in this Henley and took off my jacket and was able to be outside comfortably. And it's much enjoyed this time of year, although it is kind of makes you nervous because it could be a tease of spring, and then of course we could still have 2 months or more of winter. So that is kind of what's going on in my neck of the woods. I see people joining. Hi Lola, so good to have you as always. I know I say that every week, but it means so much that you take time out of your week to spend with us here on the live stream. The live stream is real simple for those of you who may not have joined before. It's very much like open house, meaning stop in, stop out, join the conversation wherever you're watching the live stream on Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Primarily YouTube. That's where it is hosted. You can find all of that information. Also, I vlog whatever is going on in my life. A new vlog went up this week on Monday morning. Usually I put those up. So if you're interested in that, you can see our Winterfest here in our little mountain town. Last week was Winterfest, or last weekend. And I was able to capture some footage of our fireworks display, which is shot, the fireworks are shot off the edge of the open cut, which is an old surface mine that used to exist here when the gold mine was in operation. It is starting to return to the earth, literally, as the sides of the surface mine are now starting to collapse after about 20 years of the mine not being in operation. But it still makes a picturesque and really dynamic experience for fireworks, primarily because you hear the concussion of the fireworks off the sides and bottom of this giant open pit. I also captured the giant bonfire, which our town does, of all the old Christmas trees. It's a great time for the community to get together. So hope you'll check that out on the vlog this week as well. All right, let's get jumping into the live stream. Hey Yogesh, it's good to see you. I hope you and the family are well. I said let's jump into the live stream. We are well into the live stream. Let's jump into the painting. You may see this on my screen, but let me put it up on yours. All right. Oh, whoops. That's not what I wanted to do. The reference photo. There is the reference photo. I found this photo in my reference group on Facebook, so I'm excited to try this evening. It's going to be a real challenge because there's a lot going on, and I have a larger panel than I usually have, so we will struggle to get through this whole thing, but I'm hoping to get at least a really good start on the underpainting. I have several paintings to finish. You may have seen on LinkedIn or on Instagram that I posted the final pictures of the lighthouse that we did. I'm not sure if it was last week or the week before, but that lighthouse, the Santa Cruz, California lighthouse, is up on Instagram. If you want to see how that turned out, the final photos of that, you can check that on Instagram. That is where I post all of my process photos when I finish a painting. So typically in the live stream, we start a new painting and you can catch those on the live or on Instagram. All right, let's get started. Let me put my palette up here so you have that in front of you, and then I'm going to switch cameras. Whoops, I switched the wrong camera. I'm going to switch cameras here so that you don't get nauseated as I move cameras around, because I have to kind of stretch my canvas camera over And let's see here. Okay, I think we have it set. I may have to do some minor adjustments, but we got the main bit started. Okay, let's see. Come on. All right. Someday I need to go through and I'll switch back to that camera. Okay, here we are. You have the palette and the canvas. We'll move that up. Actually, I wonder if I can move this right up under the, so you can kind of see both at the same time. That works. That might even be better. All right, we are constantly making adjustments to this live stream, trying to make it better. So let's see here. I am going to perch myself and we will get started. Hey there, Pixelated Beast. So glad to see you. I am doing well. I hope you are well. I saw you streaming a couple times this week. I tried to pop in whenever I get a notification from Twitch and check out what is going on your stream, but that is, let's see. All right, let's jump in. We're going to take some I need to check your Instagram then. Is it also Pixelated Beast or is there a different handle on Instagram? Would love to follow. Please drop that in the chat and I will follow for sure. Always love finding new artists, whether it's somebody who uses my medium or different mediums, whether it's a different style. Armand Dogs 12. All right, y'all, if you're interested in following Pixelated Beast, you can do that on Instagram. Please check that out. I am going to do it right now. Otherwise, I will forget or possibly forget and not go back to my the live stream. Armand Dogs. Oh, cool. All right, I am following you there. And I see that habla español también. Qué bueno. All right. I speak very little, but I love the language. So let's jump in. And as we do, I want to start putting some composition together. So let's do that first. Let's get our major kind of components up on the canvas and we will see what we can find. I'm putting just some raw umber, ultramarine blue, which create our dark colors. Ultramarine blue and raw umber will create almost a black color so that we can do that without actually using black. But I'm such a live stream noob and this is a pain, but I've been watching your vids about a... Oh, thanks so much, John. Awesome. Love having you here. I understand. I am honestly a live stream noob as well. I started this when I started teaching myself to paint about a year and a half ago. And I'm still figuring it out and going with the flow. So totally get it. But it's awesome to have friends here in town join, check things out. Okay, so y'all, we have what we want to do is I want, as this is composed pretty well, the photographer, but this is kind of our horizon. And we want the peak of the mountain a little bit off center because that's going to give us a better composition. So we'll do that. And there's kind of a peak there. It looks like there's kind of a big foothill there. And then there's one that's visible here. The rest is just, this is all going to be trees. So we get that in. Weird tech. Yes, tech is always weird. Unless it works, then it's amazing. But otherwise, I am a little concerned. In my day job, I do corporate training, and I am doing a training completely virtual next week. And it's a 2-day training, so it's going to be quite interesting. I've done that kind of work before because I used to be a teacher, and the pandemic happened, so we learned to do virtual teaching real fast. But I am a little nervous how that's going to work with the 4-day training. Okay, so we have roughly our peak, our mountain peak blocked in. This is the mountain. I think I like that for the most part. This will all be trees in here. We have a road that comes down here, so let's kind of give a sense of where that road will kind of be pretty much center of the then we're going to have basically trees that come back here. These will all be trees, 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 trees. Then we'll have right here, basically the dotted tree line, the lower trees in the distance. Just helps me to kind of get things on the canvas. So then this will be, these will be trees over here. We'll come back and put some real dark, really need to actually mix. I'll mix some blue with the brown right now because we might as well put some color in, get that really dark color. I wonder if I should use my larger brush and excuse me, but excuse my bop. I work for DocuSign, so I edit the tech live stream. Yeah, I found it's a software that does this live stream. So once it's set up and plugged in, and you set up different scenes to move from one thing to the next, it's not terribly complicated technologically. But and the painting, yeah, I'm still novice. Very novice. Like literally a year and a half ago, I just started doing it, and it literally has taken over my life. I love it so much, and it's cool to have something like that in your life that is you become so passionate about it. But it's quite a fun endeavor, but not something I never really thought or expected I would develop any skill in, or like it just wasn't part of I just never thought of it, never studied it, never, outside of like middle school art class with some finger paints and some watercolors, primitive watercolors maybe. And that was way too long ago. Who knows? 40 some years, 30 some years ago. So, but it's definitely a fun experience has been this process that I hope is just starting for however long is left to me on this little spinning rock in the sky. All right. What I'm doing now is, I deeply appreciate it, John. Thank you. So what I'm doing, like I said, I'm doing underpainting. I'm doing very dark because this whole painting is relatively dark. Most of it is in the shade except for right up here on the peak. And that's really where we want to direct the eye of the viewer. So by putting in a dark undercoat here, especially where these trees are, is going to allow me to then go in and with very little, I won't have to do much at all, just a few green highlights to show, and maybe some, it looks like there's some brown and rust in there, but that will allow me to give the illusion of the trees without painting every single little tree. So that's kind of that's the strategy of what's going on right now. That's something as you learn to draw or paint that is, and drawing's a little different, I suppose, but is that I'm learning is it's really a different mental exercise to look at something and say, okay, there's a mountain and there's trees. We're taught, when we're taught to draw, you draw all the trees, you draw all the mountains, you do a triangle for the mountains, you do trees, you do, a stem and a circle and, like our basic drawing techniques that most of us learned. But when it comes to painting, you're trying to create an illusion of a three-dimensional something, right? So what ends up happening is that you have to look at shapes and shadows and lights instead of where does light, or where does the light catch something and how does it catch an object, as opposed to painting the trees. Can I just paint the highlight of the tree and then someone's eye will interpret that, and our eyes, we look at that and we say, oh, that's a tree because we see the highlight edges. You can see that specifically on the, like over here, I can't point on top of the reference photo, but on the left side, there's just, all I have to do is paint some little highlights and it's going to look like there's a whole tree in there. You can't actually see the whole tree, but your brain says, oh, there's a tree there, right? So anyway, I'm getting way off track probably, but that's one of the things. So, okay, let's do that. We're going to we just put some white into that same, it's the layering. Yes, it is exactly layers. It's figuring out, what is going on. And I'm always learning, like constantly studying people who are much better at this than I further down the road. But it's really encouraging because there's so many artists that, you know, like one of my favorite artists is a completely different style than I paints. I think I mentioned him, Cody, that paints kind of pop culture figures. But he's only been painting like, I think 3 or 4 years. And, you know, it's amazing what somebody can do with a little, determination and, you know, follow through and all those good things, of course. Okay. So we're trying to get just a good cover. Give kind of where that is. We'll probably come in a little more. We can adjust this as we go because this will need multiple layers. Because I want it like the photo. I want it really dark in these corners. Okay, now the thing is we're going to do the same thing. We're going to come in. I'm going to bring a little bit of white, not much, and we're going to draw in this. I'm underpainting the mountains, basically the same colors as the trees. I'm not doing a lot different because I, number one, have to cover the canvas. And this will give me a sense of my values. Like, where are my values going? So, taking just a little bit. And let's bring in, like, kind of do here. Where's this mountain going? Now, the other interesting thing that's good to talk about here that I didn't realize until a painter actually said it, and I was like, oh, and then I started paying attention in nature. Our eyes perceive color and distance in a specific way. And it has, I'm sure there's deep scientific reason for this, but when something is in the distance, the first colors to fall out of our perception are yellows, oranges, reds, greens. And that's one reason I live in the Black Hills. That's one reason that the hills look black at a distance, because the color, you know, falls, or our perception of the color falls out. So notice that the most vibrant colors in this painting are the brighter greens, even though they're muted in the trees. The distance, we're going to see the blues and purples of the mountain and kind of a peachy, even the top of the mountain that is kind of that rust colored rock is not very, it's not like a bright red, if that makes sense. Are you painting a particular place? This is from a picture. The picture should be up in the right-hand side of your screen, the reference photo that I'm using as a reference. I don't know where this mountain is. I belong to a group on Facebook of photographers who allow artists to use their paintings or their photos as reference photos. So that is where I got it, but I don't know that the person who posted it indicated where this is. So I am not sure, John. Yes, it is a real place, and yes, I am using a picture as my reference. Okay, now let's see up here. Let's put a little bit of lighter value in. I keep bumping your camera on the... No, you are totally fine. No apology necessary. So let's put in some values here. We're going to get some of this mountain. Notice that just putting in, I haven't put any color in. It's still just the brown, blue, this gray. But just by lightening the value, by adding white, a little bit of white, all of a sudden there's an illusion again of three-dimensional perspective. So I'm going to take that same blend now, and I'm going to take that back. The highlights here, I think, are going to be some of the lowlights or midtones back here. Because again, as it comes forward, the color and the values are going to be more saturated. The color specifically is going to be more saturated as it moves forward, if that makes sense. So that is why we can do that, and that gives the perception that one of these is behind the other, obviously. So let's put a little white in there. Okay. Now we're going to come across this ledge. We want kind of this, we want to start to lay in some sense of shape here behind this other. And we'll refine this as we go. Again, we're just laying in the basic and in order to indicate the brightest parts of sunlight, I just take more white. You can see all of this shade, all of these shades are basically the same color or chroma. Some of this detail will show through the trees, so we'll just get it in there, but we won't get too precise with that. All right, need to mix a little more of this color. That's one of the, I told you at the beginning of the year, one of my things this year, one of my goals is to really improve, of course, my skill, but painting a lot more. And one of the things that I really want to focus on is values and getting more precise with my values. And so I'm going to be doing, I do off camera, but some real experimentation with that as we go, and specific value exercises. Okay, now we need, I probably should have started with the sky, but you know, it's not like I know what I'm doing, right? So let's put in a sky. We want some, this underpainting, I'm just using these same three colors just so that I get as harmonious a painting as possible. So this sky is kind of cloudy and is yeah, it's cloudy and it's murky, and so we'll just lay in a basic shade of blue across blue, brown, white, kind of mix it together, just get it to cover the canvas a little bit, and then we'll put in the stormy clouds. And again, those will be, remember y'all when I couldn't paint clouds? I say that every time, don't I? Remember I couldn't paint clouds? I was so, not an expert at them, but I'm much better than I was. I found myself in the painting of the lighthouse putting in clouds just because they weren't even in the reference photo, and I was putting in clouds just because I was having fun. So we'll do that. Let's take some more blue, white. Now we're almost the same color as the mountains. And for the undercoat, that's fine. But we'll want to lighten that up, of course. And actually, I'm putting in some of the blue just because it's there and I see it. It'll be a different color blue that I'll come in and saturate that a little more. But down here, there's much more blue the closer we get to the earth, of course, because there's more, well, number one, more of the sky exposed, but there's also more as you're looking horizontally across the earth, there's more atmosphere you're looking through. So our colors will be a little more saturated right up against these mountains. So that's what's going on in the old noggin right now. Clouds are all about tops and bottoms. Yes, yes. Ingredients. Yes, you're right. It's, again, trying to create a three-dimensional illusion on a two-dimensional space. And then different types of clouds. Like, that's probably something I should study more. I should go back to my earth science from grade school and remember the types of clouds and how they form, and because that it's different if you're thinking about how the light reflects off of a vaporous place. All right, so we have the sky in. It's really ugly, and really the underpainting is really ugly, and that's okay. So I'm just putting a kind of hint of these lighter spots in here, which is little by little, we'll just keep carving those places into the mountains. And we just get tighter and tighter shapes, right? That is what we get. Yes. Yes, Steve. Yes, it is. Thank you. Bob G, welcome. Greetings from the sunny south. Yes, I've heard. You guys are getting a little better weather. We are as well. Like I said at the beginning that I had my coat off today, and it was gorgeous. Snow's melting fast and furious. All right. So let's let that breathe a little bit. And I'm going to take a picture because, you know, for science or posterity or something. Step back a little bit and look at okay, I think I want to really work, because I started, in this case, kind of backwards. Typically I would work sky backward to forward, but in this case, the sky is still drying, the underpainting. So I'm going to let it dry for a bit, and I am going to jump into the second layer on the trees, because once the trees are in, once the dark spaces are dark enough, there's not a whole lot we have to paint to make the trees work. So we'll paint kind of the bulk of the trees. I'll leave the like edges that are up into the sky for the very last, once all the sky and mountain and everything is behind, is the way I want it. But I think this makes sense. Clearly I didn't really, I thought this through, but I didn't think it all the way through necessarily. But let's do, again, our dark brown and black, or dark brown and blue will give us that deep dark color. So we want the edges as dark as possible. So I'm just going to come over here and mix this really darkly. I said I'm going to mix it darkly. I'm not mixing darkly. I'm mixing something that is dark. Oh, Lordy. So, getting the right balance. See, on your screen, on my palette, this looks almost black, but it's good. I prefer, I mean, I have actual black out of the tube here sitting next to me. Like, I have a black paint, but what I found, especially in life, for my taste in, what's the word I'm looking for? The landscape painting. This dark color is just as good as black, because in nature there really are no real like black colors. We perceive, you know, a zebra as black and white, but if you get up close, it's not. And so subtly, it's just, you know, if it was complete black, it'd be dark, you know, like we would see nothing. It would just be a black hole, literally. But so now I'm going to try to get a little more specific with my edge here to indicate, so it'll start to look like trees, even though the individual treetops aren't there yet. We'll give the illusion of the kind of that edge of the and sometimes when I mix on my palette, I mix a little more blue, which gives us the darker black. And sometimes I mix a little more brown, so you get a little more chroma, but it's still just very dark. But that gives variety already as it dries here in the we'll just cover all of this so it's really dark. Yes, sir. That's exactly true. It's sometimes I'll use black if I'm painting something and I really want a almost that, like typically it's a man-made item. Like if there's some particular dark mug or cup, or I want to indicate a void, I will sometimes use dark. Now I'm being fairly specific here at the top of the road where I'm putting in these dark shadows, because they are, we don't have to copy exactly the painting or the picture, but it does help to kind of lay in. I can tell I've been talking more this time. Maybe there's more that's happening in my brain. Sometimes I just paint and I'm kind of Well, I think this is my comfort zone too, because landscapes are typically a little more easy for me. Um, so maybe that's why as well. I have no idea. But, oh, that's really blue. Let's put some more brown in there. Oh, I'm almost at the end of the tube. It's the local chat board now. Thanks. Yeah, actually, we have people. Typically, my parents are on here, and they're up on miners right below you. But I haven't seen them pop in. They usually pop in on Facebook, but I'm not sure if it streamed over to Facebook. I know Twitch obviously is here, but I'm not sure if Facebook made it. For some reason, my software was giving me fits because, like we were saying, technology. But we have, and then but I have friends from where I used to live in Arkansas, and then Lola's out in Michigan. So we have people, and then there's always lurkers. I can see there's a number on my software that shows the people, like the number of people watching, but I can't tell where they are or who they are, of course. So welcome to the lurkers always. So glad to have you lurking, popping in and checking out what's going on. That is just fine. But I always enjoy my local peeps. That's part of the value of a small town. I love that part of being in a small town. You get to know people from a variety of different places and different roles or segments of the community, and it's really kind of pretty awesome. Whoops, I'm putting finger marks on the edge of my painting and in the sky of my painting. Well, can't win them all, folks. Can't win them all. All right. Now, as you can tell, just by putting in some of this dark, really dark underpainting, it's going to give us a good framework to build on. So I'm going to start putting some of this a little bit lighter coming out to this road. Basically just filling in the space. I'm going to take a little bit of white, mix it in. We'll do some rough suggestions of highlights along the road. Those will, of course, be green back in there. I think I need this to come up a little bit higher. Oh, you know what would be interesting? It would be interesting to do the road winding slightly to the right. So it goes, because this is the focal point, the sunny part. And if we do, that's a composition tool. If we curve the road just slightly, then all of a sudden it's leading the eye subconsciously towards, and these tall trees keeping the eye from going off the canvas will guide us right in. I think that's what I'm going to do. And I think I'm going to leave this a little more exposed than it is, so that that creates a, so we have all these lines moving into, that's just something I decided right now, into the, yeah, and we can indicate that by making these trees a little higher and then curving this road just a little bit like that, maybe. Let's see. We can always paint over it, of course. Taking that road and bending it just a tad. So we'll bring the road out this direction more. Take it that way. Let's see if that works for us. I put a lot of white in this, so it's probably too stark. But you kind of get, there we go. Start to get the idea. Yes, I think that's a good choice, y'all. Okay. Oh, yes. Look at how that little change just changes. It just changes the composition. And it, my eye already, just looking at it on your screen, I'm looking off to the side, it's already drawn more up into this corner. That's so bizarre. I mean, I know I'm learning. That's the funny thing. Like, you learn these little simple things. Like, it's not rocket science. And people look at painting or art, I think, sometimes and think, oh, it's so unattainable. And yes, there are people that are, like any practice or skill, that are, you know, uniquely gifted or uniquely, you know, have been doing. There's a guy my age and that I follow in New Zealand. He's a brilliant artist, but his father was an artist, and he's been painting and sculpting and drawing since he was a child. And that's a total different. He's going to have total different set of tricks in his experience than I will, and that's okay too. But if you learn some basic things, you can really create some cool art. So anyway, where do I buy my supplies locally? I actually go down to Rapid City, and I started painting with acrylics, so they're very fast drying, very forgiving. They're not as, I guess, they have different quality than oils, but I wanted to learn in the first year or two, I wanted to learn the fundamentals and get an understanding of form and, you know, lighting and values and color. I wanted to learn some color theory and some perspective things and different things like that before I dive into oils, because oils take so long to dry, even if you use a medium. And you can't paint wet on wet. Like, it would be very difficult for me to do a live stream like this with oils, because I could do like one section or one thing, and then you have to let it sit and dry or move to another, you know, painting or that type of thing. So that's the thought process. But yeah, I go down to Rapid City and I just go to Michael's, like just to the art store. I'm sure there may even be in Rapid an actual like art store, like a Blick store or some. I don't know. I haven't looked. I probably should. But yeah, I kind of stay in rapid. Okay, I am going to take just a tad of green and start slowly introducing some different chromas into this thing, into this experiment. So let's come back up here and let's come in again with our, want to start putting some color in here. And I'll just do some, these kind of strokes just to get the, so we get the feeling of, you know, there's something back there. And the trees, because I'll paint over those, of course. And dark will always go over light. I need to move this tree over a little bit. He needs to come up right here. So again, I'm making adjustments on the fly, you know, as I see that my mountain is a little off. That's the thing. You can't be afraid to, or you can't be too precious with it, with your work. The art is important, but if you get too precious with the process, you know, if it has to be perfect, it's just, well, number one, it's just not going to be. And if that's what you're going for, then you're going to be sadly disappointed. So okay. Now I'm reverting to my old habits of getting real quiet. It's not my intention. I'm just concentrating a little more heavily on some of this because I want to start really honing in these shapes. And I'm looking specifically not at the shape of the mountain, although yes, I am, but the shape of the shadows of the mountain. Oh, then I drop a brush out of my hand. Let's see here. We want to almost the same color. The further away, the less detail we'll put in. We'll just put kind of some suggestions of what's going on back there. But we need these shadows that are coming across here. Just a tad lighter. We're getting there, y'all. We're getting there. Again, I'm just adding the value, like getting the values right, because eventually I'll be able to go in and do specific colors, and as long as I keep the values correct, then it will render, or it will read correctly. Now we're going to take a little more It's much appreciated when you explain the detail, because I, for one, get all the theory things. Ah, that's very cool. I have started, this is interesting to me because I started like painting, of course, and paint as a medium. But a few weeks ago, I bought an iPad and I'm using Procreate to do some actual digital paintings, but I'm using it as a paint tool. So I am basically using one, maybe two layers, and using Procreate. Kind of my process is very similar, just because I want to be able to paint more often and not fill my whole house with sketches and canvases and clean brushes every single time. So it's fascinating, those of you that are gifted in digital design or digital tools. That is a fascinating talent, and that's something I could find myself diving deep, deep, deep down the rabbit hole for sure, if I wasn't so in love with the paint process. But I intend to have a very long life, so there's no reason I can't become a paint there's no reason I can't do more digital. More, when I say digital, like I'm thinking more traditional illustrative type painting, because there's just so much and you can never learn it all. That's what's exciting. It's just like, man, Oop. Slowly adding more chroma into this, or variations in chroma into this painting to get it the way I want it. Mixing a little more blue because there's some, nope, I need more brown. Here, it's a little closer to us, but it's not as saturated. Yes, there is. That is a Google thing with YouTube that whatever I'm reacting or responding to, you guys have already said, or vice versa. So not a problem. Typically, I kind of I can keep in my head what's going on, and or it stays in my head. So not a problem. See, just a few brush strokes, and all of a sudden you have an indication of 3 dimensions in the background there. It doesn't need to be very specific at all. The only other color I've added at this point is right here, which is the actual burnt umber. I have raw umber up here, but the burnt umber adds a little more red to the umber, so that is where we can get some, it will cut some of the green, and we get some of the, as we come closer, we can add more. This is going to be a fun painting in the end. I'm glad I put it on a little bit larger canvas panel. Eventually I want to go out into the hills and do more of the our landscape around here, but I need to learn to paint rocks and such because we have lots of canyons and a lot of opportunity for sure. All right, we have about probably 30-ish minutes left, 35-ish before we really kind of wrap up, 40 minutes maybe. So let's see what we can do with this in the last little bit here, because I feel like we have a really good start. Let's see if we can get these trees done, get some the key to this is just going to be more and more layers, and I'll have to work on this outside of the live stream course. I always say that, but it's true. All right. Thanks so much. I appreciate it, John. If you weren't here at the very beginning, on Instagram, which is the same handle, Stephen E. Rice, my middle initial, Stephen E. as in Edward. I always post progress photos and final photos there. So that's a great place. If you see something on the live stream, it will show up on Instagram. So that's a great way you can also keep in the know. Because I am trying this year to paint. I have blocked three blocks, specific paint blocks a week, of several hours outside of the live stream. So I'm trying to paint 3 to 4 days a week, either digitally or traditional. So we are going to make a lot of progress this year. I am confident. So I'm kind of excited about that. Okay, I've added a little burnt umber to this just so I can start creating even more light and shadow. That perception in here. Isn't it amazing? You put a few dabs of paint and all of a sudden it's like crazy. You have mountains jumping out all over. And it's still fairly muted, so we have a lot of places we can go with that. With this yes, I am very happy with how this is starting to come together. Okay, now I'm going to try something I may regret, but after saying, oh, there's no black in nature, well, I am going to do C. I'm going to mix C. It doesn't often work for me, but I'm going to mix a little black and see if I can artificially darken I just really love how dark these edges are, and I want them even darker. So, oh, too much brown. One of the keys to working in acrylics, of course they dry very fast, but one of the other keys I think of doing this successfully is multiple layers. And really getting that, having that patience. That's where you can almost kind of fudge a little bit and make it look as if you painted in oils. If you are patient enough to do the layers and the different colors. I think John said that earlier. Layers are vital. So look how just this dry layer, even just putting wet paint over it, you can already start to see where my mind is going and where we're gonna go with this, with these layers. So you can start to see what's really going on there. And we're just gonna do the same thing. We're gonna keep even by not putting any more paint or chroma colors in, it looks like there's trees popping out of there. John, honestly, it depends on the day. I noticed a significant difference when I moved up here I moved from Little Rock, Arkansas. And of course there, the air is much more humid and but they dry very fast. Like this is already dry up here on the mountains where I was painting before. So it's within minutes. And obviously the time it took me to paint the mountains, then this underpainting down here is dry. So yeah, it's really it is a forgiving medium in that regard. It is tough if you're like people starting out, but I just got used to it. Like I like it now because I like to be able to go in and because I wasn't quote trained, or I'm still very much experimenting with things. I like to be able. I like knowing that I can make a mistake and I can almost immediately paint right over it. If like that, the tree that was still clear out here, like within a few minutes, I can move it back over here. So that's kind of one reason I have stayed with acrylics for now. I do look forward to experimenting with oils and learning more, because I think there are things you can do with oils. I mean, there's a reason that all the masters used oil. And it's more, I think, probably a little more archival. But at this point, I don't think I'm creating anything that is necessarily worth archival and archiving. And the reality is everything can be digitized now. So, which I'm grateful for, because when I moved up here, many people on the live stream know that my U-Haul was stolen, and a bunch of my initial very early paintings were taken. And so thankfully I had digitized some of them, and I was able to salvage some of that. Or, I can always print. Make prints. Sorry, I kind of lost myself in the moment. All right, with very little work, I just dotted in those trees, and they are coming together. So we start to see, I really like this composition, keeping these low, building these up, curving the road and pointing it towards that. I think it makes it even a stronger composition than the original photo. That's one thing that I learned along the road when you're taking reference photos. If you understand composition, like composing a photo well can often help you compose a painting well. So yeah, that's the deal. Now let me take some. John, you were asking about this side is already tacky dry, so like I can put my hand on it. This side's still a little wet, but that's how fast. Very, very fast. So what I want to do is start putting in some. We have about half an hour. So I'm putting some sap green here, and I have my phthalo green, which is a blue green. We'll put that there. And then we will put some burnt umber in to cut the out of tube green, because the burnt umber has red in it, and opposite on the color wheel is red. And that will give us a little more, hopefully, realistic, organic green. There you can see my green kind of mixing there. I'm using a brush that is a kind of, I call it a stipple brush, but by loading the brush and pushing it down, then it helps create organic shapes. So we're going to come up here and start to put in some of these tree shapes where they are. And again, I'm just tapping basically just putting in highlights. So you don't have to paint actual trees, you just paint where the light hits. And that gives you the feeling of, oh, there's some. And as we go back, we're just doing 1 or 2 dots. And then there's one that comes up into the light there. So we will mix some more. That's the pain, because it does dry on the palette really fast. So you have to mix some more, mix some more. Over here, we have a lot more of the I'm going to put some of this along the road. The closer it is to us, of course, the more we will have the green down here. I don't think it shows on your screen, but it won't. Whoa, that's really bright. So we'll put some more. It's very green, so we'll put some, I'm actually going to even mix some raw umber into that to darken it, because it's going further back. So we still want a little bit of green to show, but we want it to be much more subtle. Then we bring just a tad of white in. Because there are, ooh, that's really bright. It's hard to see. Yes, yes, sir. Actually, let's see if this works. You can see when I turn off my overhead light, let me tilt it. See how I've added the highlights there. And one reason I have the bright light on, but they are so, there's just no highlight to them at all. Like it's just barely making the suggestion of trees. And that's exactly what I want, because I want this all dark and I want the eye drawn in here. So this will be the brightest value point in my image. I'm gonna really draw the road is going to be a lot darker value wise, so that there's a greater contrast. The road, the visual I want to lead there, but this needs to be like a dark blue, gray, deep dark, so that it draws, that one yellow line draws the eye inward, and then this will be the highest value point in the image. But I'm setting that up by keeping my variations in value in the foreground very, very muted. Yeah, so that's why I'm doing that. But the highlights you can just see along the edges, just to give the illusion that there's 3 dimensions to these trees. And as it dries, then that's the other thing with acrylics, they dry darker. Then, there you can see by shining the light, you can see it's a little more exaggerated than it actually is in the painting, but you can see some of the highlights. And by doing that, as they dry, they'll dry darker. I'll have to do more layers again. But this allows me to kind of just test the idea, to test my methods to make sure that I am getting what I want, so I can make adjustments. Yeah, thanks. I appreciate the engagement, but also the questions, because that really, like anything, it makes me have to think, which is super helpful in a situation like this where I have to think about why I'm doing something and also articulate that in a way that can be understood. And I used to be a teacher. I enjoy teaching. And so primarily just because teaching makes me understand something better. And I'm super curious that way. So I appreciate all the questions, especially when I start getting into it and I kind of go silent. It's helpful to have somebody say, hey, come back out to us, come back out here. All right, let's go back to the sky, because we haven't touched the sky and we probably need to do at least 1 or 2 more layers there. So we'll start mixing some sky colors. Let me do a little bit, just a tad of phthalo blue. I think I said phthalo blue earlier, or maybe I didn't, phthalo green, but this is phthalo blue. I had ultramarine blue on before. So let's, phthalo blue, it's a little more sky blue. So we'll take some white, see if we can mix. See, phthalo blue starts to get really bright really fast. And we don't want it like a sunny day because it's dusk. I feel like this is dusk, but perhaps it is, perhaps it's actually sunrise. I don't know. What do you all think? Do you all think it's dusk or sunrise? What are we working with here? Let me adjust my light again so that it's not as, oh, that's not gonna work. because it shines so bright. Actually, maybe I can adjust the temperature. My camera adjusts for that. That's the only problem. But if I do that, then it's like, why have the camera, or why have it on at all? I need like studio lights that, and a camera that doesn't auto adjust for color, because I'm using basically webcams and they are made for, you know, doing webinars and such, and so they adjust the light. Well, we'll work with it. Let's get some in this kind of a grayish blue is what I'm mixing here. It's a lot more purple blue than it looks. It looks more cyan blue on your. So John says it's neither dusk nor dawn. It's storm, which I agree with. Lola thinks it's dusk. I felt maybe it was dusk as well, but it may be the storm as we head towards dusk, right? Okay, so let's put in, it's by putting it on the canvas now I see that it is really dark, but that could be, see, it looks very cyan on your screen, but it's much more purple blue on my screen. So yeah, I think I want those dark cloud or dark skies coming right up to the mountains. So I think I'm going to do that dark. I think I'm going to do it a darker under. I wish it didn't show that way. That's, yeah, it still looks really, that's frustrating. I need somebody who's a stage, actually I just need better cameras. Like I need some good cameras that are gonna not adjust my colors on me or artificially adjust my colors on me. But I guess when you're trying to run a webinar or something, you don't want somebody completely washed out. So I guess I understand why they make them auto adjusting like that. Yes, the clouds to the left of screen. The crazy thing is, I want, because the rule of thumb is the closer to the light source, which is over here, the darker and more chromatic the color. And so I do want this to be kind of lighter over here. It's a subtle thing, but it helps us, our brains, be like, oh yeah, that's correct. So we'll lighten that up. And I am going to just paint, I think, around the shapes that I want, because the underpainting now looks like clouds automatically. if I just put a little bit of shape into some of this, then all of a sudden we have a look of clouds, and then I can come back with grays and blues, and I'm going to now really take this towards gray by diffusing the blue and bringing in white, so we have almost a black, you know, the blue and the brown make black, or almost black, and then gray. So then we can come in and do this kind of thing, give us some shapes around the we'll do something like this, so we have some other eventually we just want to get rid of all the hard lines, so, or hard edges. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do. And that's the most difficult part with acrylics, again, because they dry so fast that it's easy to get like hard edges like right there. But I think little by little we're getting what we want. Some of those hard edges we can eliminate with our just a finger. Yeah, we want to make it look really stormy. So we want a high contrast between these clouds and the underclouds. Because I think the stormy feel of it is going to really make it not only more dramatic, but more interesting. Let me take. Yeah, so you can kind of see the shapes I'm creating. There, we'll bring in some again, these clouds will be directing, let me see, because it's kind of, if I turn it your direction, you can see, so the clouds are pointing towards the mountain, the road is coming towards the mountain, this block of trees is leading towards the mountain, so the, yeah, we're definitely putting in the composition that we want ultimately. So I'll have to come do some detail work in the clouds, but you get the rough idea. What I think is fascinating, I can't understand except for the way it seems that you understand breakdown painting. So this is a blast to watch. Thank you. This has been an experiment. A year and a half ago, when I turned on my camera, I thought nobody would ever watch this. I mean, we watch Bob Ross because he does it in 30 minutes and like it's a beautiful painting. But I think the people that pop in every week seem to enjoy. So the better I can get, obviously the better I get, the more understanding I have, the more I'm able to communicate that understanding, which is fun, I think, for everybody, me included. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. So I think the final thing, again, I said tonight we would get a really good like underpainting. We have about 10 minutes ish left. I want to darken this road to make sure that's really what I want to do. So I'm going to mix some, again, my ultramarine blue, my brown, get a black, a good black, dark color. The clouds are like a furrowed straight storm brow above the mountain. I love that description, and you are absolutely right. It's like the clouds are like puckering their forehead over the mountain. Sometimes, John, you'll appreciate it. Sometimes I think that's what Terry Peak and Deer Mountain do outside of Lead. They kind of pucker their forehead, and then we get a blast of either wind or cold or snow or whatever. That's a really great description. I love that. I love it. Okay, so I'm mixing, and then I'm going to put a little white to gray it down, but I don't want to go too. I can always lighten it, but I can't always, like, darkening it is tougher. So I don't want to put too much white in. This is what I'm mixing, this kind of grayish brown color. Let's get it on the canvas and see what it looks like. Okay, because this is all hypothesis at this point. So let's experiment with our hypothesis and say, okay. We'll take it out there as far as we can. The reason I left that other is I actually want to bring, I think I want to bring the dark of the, what am I trying to say? The dark of the edge of the road out a little ways. So let's do this. That way we get more of a, I'm still not sure. I have to paint over this, but I know when I get the shape right, it will be really much better. So I need to like put something down and then kind of, yeah. I think I'm getting the shape I want, slowly but surely. If I can, may have to let that dry because it's going to read really bright. That's not what I want, but gives us the idea. Yeah, and then I can come down the center with a yellow line that recedes into the background. Okay. I think we're getting it, y'all. That'll take some work, but I'm going to let it dry a little bit. What do you think? What do you all think of this composition? Let me turn off my light. Oh, maybe. Then it's too dark, isn't it? Let's see if I can bring it over. That's where we are right now. I like how this is off to the not center because you don't want anything center. This is in the center and leads that way. The clouds come in and point to the mountains point, or the trees over here point to the mountain or lead us in. And this keeps our eye, the taller trees over here keep our eye from going off the edge of the canvas and keep us focused on the mountain. All of that is composition. All of those things have nothing to do with how good or how bad I paint the mountain, how good or bad I paint the trees, because obviously I haven't put any detail in yet. That's all composition. That kind of helps you understand how important, artists talk about composition, how important it is. And I'm learning that now. Like the first thing we always, not we always, but I think the first thing people jump in a lot of times is to the color, and they want to put color on the canvas, and understanding composition, values, yeah, all of those things are really valuable in the success of a painting, because you actually have to paint much less as far as like the number of strokes and brush strokes, if you have the composition right. Okay. The only thing that throws me off is the road curve. Too narrow. I really love the composition. Otherwise, nice. Okay, John, say more about the too narrow. Is like when it gets in the distance, the curve is too narrow, or the road is too narrow, or it's too narrow up front. I really like this, receding into the back, but do I need to take it back a little further, or do I need to bring this edge out a little more to make it look like it's receding out into the distance? Would love your opinion, because I'm not sold. I am not sold on my own. The balance between the origin and the end. Okay. Yeah, that's what something seems off like in this corner and here. I think I like this part of it, like but I need to figure out, like it comes out here and then it's like, woof, I need to figure out that I may need to find some reference of curved roads to see, like, I think you're right. The right edge of the origin. Yep, I agree. Once this dries, then I'll be able to kind of take some of this off as well. And this will be darker, so it won't look like part of the road as well. So that may help. Yeah, we'll see. I will keep working on that. This will be something that I will work on because I really like this, and I may end up, this will be one I'll keep and probably not frame, but put up in the studio here. And just because, number one, the whole subject matter is beautiful, but it's also a lot of fun to do. So I'm just gonna put a few detailed things on the mountain, start articulating some of the more precise shapes. Since I have this paint already mixed on my palette, I figured I might as well. Perspective lines, absolutely. Yes, perspective is definitely one of the components of the fundamentals that I need to strengthen and explore more, just because I haven't done a lot of drawing. I need to do much more drawing, because I think drawing is a real value at this stage of the game where I am. But I think you're absolutely right. Perspective lines, and that's what's nice about digital doing on the iPad, because I can throw in perspective lines really easily. And yep, all that. Correct. Okay, I need to stop. I just realized it is 5 till. I need to quit painting, y'all, but I can't. Can't stop, can't stop. Okay, I'm going to stop for now, because we have a really good start, and I'm very pleased with where this one is going. So that is a lot of fun. Okay, let me do this. Let me not trip myself on the microphone cord first of all. Let me set my seat back, and I will switch y'all back to this mode. So you see me again. Hello. That way I can move my camera out, not give everybody motion sickness, and pull this up. Okay. Let's see. All right, here we are. We're back. Let me take that down. All right, it was so great hanging out with you all. So let me pull this kind of out of the artificial lighting, and you can kind of see with the overhead how this has turned out so far. So obviously needs a lot more detail work, but it is going to be a really beautiful painting in the end. So that is where we are with this painting, and I am pleased with it. So we will continue working on this in the studio and get it set up in the next, or get it kind of finished probably in the next week or two. So be looking on Instagram if you'd like for this. So, all right. And that said, thank you for joining me. I hope you have a great week. I hope that you find some time to do something creative of your own. I will look forward to seeing you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Monday evening, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. You can find all all upcoming or future live streams already on YouTube as upcoming videos. So anytime, if you don't see the link or you don't see it go live, you can always look on YouTube. They're there, and you can find the links. Of course, you can follow me on Instagram to keep track of art I'm working on, both in the studio and digitally. You can see live or time lapses of the digital art, as well as progress photos of the in-studio art. So be sure to check that out on Instagram at Stephen E. Rice. And you can also check out my vlog if you're interested in my life here in the mountains and why I left teaching and moved cross country. That story is also here on YouTube. Thanks so much for joining me this evening. Have a wonderful week, and I will see you next time.